Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. I told you the truth is allowed to come out in the open, little by little. Now, the Russians, who we are conditioned not to believe or not to trust at all, but trust the media operatives in the West, called as the free media, they kept telling us that the Americans and the Brits, they are orchestrating, planning, organizing the Ukrainian army's attacks on Russian objectives. Here, what we found, or what I found, is a clear example of how a mission was planned and the Ukrainians, as I said, just pushed or squeezed the trigger into attacking the Kerch Bridge. If you remember, the Kerch Bridge was attacked with some ATACMS trying to destroy it, and it failed. And the Russians now, they tell us that actually behind that there's evidence right here, it was the Brits and the Americans. My question or my point for this video is, why did the Russians agree to allow this to go that far? And I will explain what do I mean by that far. Don't you think that if someone is involved in destroying one of your bridges, that someone, in this case United States of America and United Kingdom, are involved in a war, directly involved? And what would you do? How did it get this far and it was acceptable from the Russians' perspective and from the other guys as well? So let me show you the article. This is the article coming from Sputnik, and the headline reads, "Mission failed. United Kingdom and United States helped orchestrate Ukraine's 2024 Crimean bridge attack." Now, for you and I'm hoping you know this, we knew this. I made videos on this, and I claimed that these guys, when they use ATACMS, when they use Patriots, when they use Patriot systems, when they operate the HIMARS, and now the F-16s or the Abrams tanks or the Challenger 2 tanks, the Brits they are operated, I think, by American troops and British troops. And if there's a Ukrainian at the end, all right, pushing the button, is just a Ukrainian pushing the button. Everything else is created by someone else, was planned and orchestrated. Let me show you. Let's read this article further here. Russian air defenses thwarted a group strike of 12 US-made ATACMS tactical missiles on the Crimean bridge in August 2024, with all the missiles destroyed. The UK helped plan and execute Ukrainian strikes using ATACMS missile targeting the Crimean bridge in August 2024. The New York Times investigation revealed. So things those guys from Sputnik and from Russia extensively told us that those guys are behind this. Without those, the Ukrainians blah, 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 blah. And still the Russians did not hit British or American targets. I will explain what I mean by that. But hey, let's read further here. The blueprint of an attack to bring the bridge down was worked out jointly by the British, the US, and the CIA. Western-supplied ATACMS were supposed to be to weaken vulnerable points on the deck of the Crimean bridge, while maritime drones would then blow up next to its stanchions, noted the outlet. But while the drones were being readied, the Russians hardened their defenses around the stanchions, wrote the outlet. The British military had considerable clout in Ukraine, it added, noting that unlike the Americans, they had placed small teams of officers in the country shortly after the conflict escalated. So they were operating right there. When you say small team of officers, you can imagine. The US has first pushed back at Ukraine's plan to strike with missiles alone, but eventually backed down. On the night of August 16, Elvis's death, Russian air defense systems successfully repelled the entire volley of enemy ATACMS missiles. So, right here on July 17, 2023, a second explosion occurred after an attack by naval drone. A family from Belgorod region who were driving across the bridge at the time were killed. So it's not the only time. Ukraine previously attacked the Crimean bridge on October 8, 2022, when a truck loaded with explosives blew up while crossing it, killing 5 people, including a driver, and damaging both the road and rail spans. Kiev denied responsibility, but finally admitting it. Now, I don't think this was organized. I mean, could be organized by the Brits, but I don't think the Ukrainians could not have done it either. My point is this. The Russians knew that. The Russians said it. Obviously, we were conditioned or demanded to ignore what they say, because otherwise we'd be Russian, whatever that we would be called. Now, to get to this point, what were the steps? And I will give you an example. Do you remember? If you don't remember, I will break the news here. It was Alec Baldwin. You know the guy? Alec Baldwin, the guy, you know, who played in one of my favorite movies, The Edge. You know, the bear and Anthony Hopkins and all that. One of my favorite movies. So Alec Baldwin showed up in a summer at a premiere of something with his wife, younger wife. And they were interviewed, there were, you know, these baboons asking questions, and while on the red carpet, she was answering a question, and he dared to say something, to add something, to complete whatever she was saying. And she turned around to him and he said, "When I'm talking, you're not talking." My question is, how did he allow her to get to this point in public to tell him that? I guarantee you, she did not tell him this the first time they met, the second time, the first year, the first 2 years. So it was a process by which it escalated to, when I'm talking, you keep your mouth shut, in front of the cameras. So, and what did he say? Why? Because he's a pussy. You can say he demands that or he deserves that. Still, if he deserves that, he's a pussy, but she's an asshole. So either way. Now, looking at that, the same thing with the Crimean bridge. What should you do? Sometimes it happens. You just get carried away, and small steps get you to accept certain things. I'm talking about life in general, relationship, friendships, however you want to call it, work relationship. You look back and say, how did I allow this person to talk to me like this? And you go back in time and you realize, yes, I didn't smack him the first time he was an asshole. Why? Because it was a small push. It was not a big push that right now you see the distance between being nice or not nice, average, neutral, into where we are right now. It was small steps that you said, let it go. It's okay. But little by little, these things were escalated. So to get the point in 2024, to know that those guys orchestrated the attacks on your bridge, what would that entitle the Russians to do? Do you think they should just blown up, I don't know, London, for instance? I'm just asking. I don't know. Well, I don't know. And then if you say, well, they wouldn't dare. Well, let's have a party. How about that one? Or I don't know, hit some British position somewhere located. I don't know, some military base in Poland or something like this. Don't give me, oh, they knew that if they do this. But how come the Brits knew the Russians would not do that? How did they take a chance? Because increments, small increments. So here, this is it. The West was fighting a direct war. It is a direct war. It's like a general who tells, not a general, commander, who tells his platoon, hey guys, you go in this operation, and you have Gigi doing something. The commander is part of the attacking group, a commando, counter commando. So the same here with this. If you have a general telling the troops, telling that, I don't know, the general tells a major, the major goes and tells a lieutenant, the lieutenant goes to a corporal, whatever it is, and then goes to a platoon and tells them, hey, you do this. Isn't the general part of the whole thing? It is. So is it a legitimate target from the enemies, in this case the Russians, hitting that general, the head of the head? He's part of the whole operation. The Brits, United Kingdom and United States of America's military and political, because they should have known, were implicated in a direct war against Russia. And Russia did not do or pay back or hit them in the same manner. They didn't. They said, you know what? We know it's them, but we're not going to strike them somewhere else. They're striking us through the Ukrainian, Should we strike them? But they keep telling us that Putin is crazy, a madman, and illogical, and all that. How come he held off? A madman, a person that is irrational, doesn't really have the good and evil very well settled in his head. He doesn't know, the consequences of actions. That's why these guys are just try to condition us in every situation where they have to push a narrative, or they want us to hate someone or to love someone. Makes you wonder, who's behind all that? Why am I required to dislike that person, and I'm required to love this ideology or person or whatever imbecility they're pushing on it? So yes, these guys were at war and they lost. And now the United States of America comes in and says, you know what, I'm the peacemaker. No, you lost. The same with the Brits. We want to be at the negotiating table. As a losing party, yes. As a mediators, no, because you're not a mediator. You lost. How much you were involved, but still you were. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.